Jackson Arnold's days as starting quarterback for the Oklahoma Sooners went out with a thud on Wednesday, National Signing Day in college football, no less. So we must talk about what comes next in that quarterback room for new offensive coordinator at OU, Ben Arbuckle, who not coincidentally was in Norman on Wednesday meeting with select members of the media, his new boss, Brent Venables, and presumably those players that are still around on that offense as well. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of Hall of Fame college football. So what comes next for Jackson Arnold? Does he head off to Ole Miss, as we've heard? Notre Dame, Georgia? Maybe somewhere closer to home like Baylor, SMU, TCU, something like that? Not sure. I think there's a lot of speculation out there about that. But I think rather than get into all that right now, I just like to say that I wish him well. You know, I have a lot of respect for the way he handled a pretty tough situation. I think it would be a tough situation for anybody, the way things kind of went down this year in Norman. But what's next for the Oklahoma quarterback room? Presumably Michael Hawkins Jr. will get the nod once again for the Sooners bowl game, wherever that may be, whenever that may be. We'll know after conference championship weekend on Sunday, whenever they do the selection show for the CFP and all that. But what happens after that? What happens post-bowl game, assuming that Michael does play as the starter in that game? I think a lot of people, and I would even kind of include myself in this, the assumption has been because of the fact that Ben Arbuckle, coming over from Washington State, has a quarterback that played very well for him this year in John Mateer, that Mateer probably enters the portal, comes to Oklahoma, becomes QB1, end of story. Easy, done and done, right? That's the hope. By the way, I like John Mateer. I think he's a good player. Taking a look at his stats, you know, he had 3,139 passing yards with 29 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Rushing the ball, he was 126 yards, another 15 touchdowns there as well. He's definitely a dual threat quarterback. Like what you see from him. Now, I will preface all that by saying that, look, maybe he shows up at Oklahoma, maybe he doesn't. Is your wireless company giving you a case of the question? What are you paying all that money for? Speed, coverage, data, access to 5G, mobile hotspots? Our partner Mint Mobile offers all these features for as low as $15 a month. They reimagined the wireless shopping experience and made it easy and online. No stores, no salespeople, and no given. Mint Mobile runs on the nation's largest 5G network and costs much less, like $15 a month. As long as you go to our link, trymintmobile.com/HOF. That's trymintmobile.com/HOF, as low as $15 a month. You can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. If Big Wireless wants you to think that they are the only option, you know what? Big Wireless. It's as easy as this. Scan the QR code on your screen or just type in trymintmobile.com/HOF. That's trymintmobile.com/HOF. Hey, save lots of money. Get away from Big Wireless. and get rid of the simple as that. You know, but the assumption is that he already knows the offense. He's played well in it. He slips right in. It's easy. You know, it's an easy transition for him. That's awfully tidy, though. Awfully tidy. And, you know, I was watching Jay and Coop last night on Unfair Sports. Love the show, as always. Love my guys. But even Jay, he basically, I remember him saying, and he kind of goes back later on, but he did say early in that show when they started talking about Mateer, oh, yeah, he's coming. He's probably 1 or 2 years. He'll be the starter. Hawkins will back him up, wait his turn again, learn the system, and then he'll get his time before Jaden O'Neal comes in here in the 26 class. I mean, there's a lot of assumptions going on there. Now, as I said later in the show, he was like, look, there's going to be probably a competition. Maybe Hawkins wins it. It was kind of flippant when he said it that way. I think he more is along the lines, like most of us, like most everybody that I've seen, that Michael Hawkins just returns to be the backup next year. I don't know how anybody thinks that Michael Hawkins is just going to come in here and be the backup. I don't see it. This dude's a competitor. And I'll tell you, he should have gotten back in the damn football game this season. But listen, not for nothing. And I understand bringing, if you're Ben Arbuckle, I definitely understand bringing in Mateer. And as I said, we're talking about a guy who had over 40 touchdowns this year. It's pretty good. It's pretty good stuff. 800 plus yards. It's almost a 4,000 yard season, total yards with, you know, more than 40 touchdowns. Pretty damn good, right? But it was in the Mountain West, guys. To just expect that, okay, yeah, that means he gets the job at Oklahoma. That doesn't win him the job at Oklahoma. He has to come win it. This is Oklahoma QBU. Nobody gets handed the quarterback position. Nobody. You got to win the thing. Trevor Knight in the Sugar Bowl beats Alabama, wildest thing ever, and loses the job to Baker Mayfield the next year. Baker ends up starting that year. I mean, you know, he had his ups and downs during that first year, but he's a 3-time Heisman finalist from there. He had to win the job. Kyler had to wait his turn. He didn't beat Baker out. You got to win the job, though. And when the rest of the team is expecting that as well. And guess what? Here's the thing. I guarantee you if with Hawkins coming back, you've heard that they upped his NIL salary. I'm sure they did. To try to keep him around. I know they want him around. And I also know that Coach Venable's very high on him. I didn't ever really understand why he never went in. The things that we saw from Jackson Arnold throughout the second half, yeah, he played very well in the Alabama game. Played gritty, played tough. You know, he's got in the Alabama game, he was 9 of 11, 68 yards. You know, he only went over 200 yards passing one time this season. It was against Maine. That's it. Had 182 against Ole Miss in a loss. Most of that was in the first half. Couple of touchdowns there. Look, in the end, Jackson's stats were pretty paltry, man. Pretty paltry if you look at it. I mean, he ended up with, on the season, 154 for 246, 62%, 1,421 yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. he also had, 2 fumbles against Missouri, 2 fumbles against Tennessee. Michael Hawkins had that one bad quarter, and he had a fumble in the Red River game. The field, they were freaking damn near dead last in passing anyway. Point is, anybody could have. I feel like what we saw from him in the Bama game, you could have gotten at least that from Michael Hawkins as well. Fine that they didn't. They were trying to keep him around or whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But I'll tell you that I think that part of the problem was that, because we heard a lot early on that he might be the guy. I told you guys whenever he was still a senior that I thought that if Jackson Arnold ever got hurt or pulled for ineffective play, he'd never see the field again. I will still tell you that I could understand them putting him back in for the South Carolina game. I don't think he should have started again. Again, that's neither here nor there. Thankfully, you got to keep this kid, but I'm telling you now, Michael Hawkins is that guy. If he loses the job to John Mateer or whoever it is that Ben Arbuckle would bring in through the portal, because I do believe that you have to go get a portal quarterback. There's no two ways around it, but you got to do it for competition, period. You got to win the job. It's Oklahoma, but don't make the same mistake that they did in handing the starting quarterback position, the most important position on the field, to somebody that doesn't win it. It's got to be an open competition in camp. That in and of itself tells me I don't know that they actually do get Mateer because, man, you're going to have a lot invested in him. And I think that that's part of the biggest problem. What I will tell you is you look at what Michael Hawkins did in high school, which is not the same thing, but it tells you what kind of player he is. Think about that game that he played against Tennessee. He was layering balls in, making great throws. Some of you people that were saying silly stuff on that tweet yesterday that I ended up commenting and retweeting, he can't throw the ball. What are you talking about? They didn't let him throw the ball. Jackson was afraid to throw the ball, though. Hell, Burks was screaming at him on the sideline to throw the damn football, and he would argue about not throwing it. It can't be this way, guys. Hawkins Sr. at Frisco Emerson, he led that team all the way to the semifinal and lost to South Oak Cliff, which ended up winning back-to-back state champions in Texas football. It was looking that way as well. Definitely what was going on in that game plan and everything was not conducive for him being very successful, and he certainly had a hell of a time in the South Carolina game. A lot of people did against that defensive front. No two ways around it. The scheme was shitty, though. It stayed shitty. Bottom line is you got to compete for this thing. And Michael Hawkins is a competitor. I don't think that there's a way in hell that he just lays down for anybody. I'm not saying he'll just get up and leave either if he doesn't win the job. But you got to, for him staying, even after everything that went on this last year, at the very least, you owe Michael Hawkins a true competition that he can go out there and win or lose. And I'll tell you, as much as I like John Mateer, I'd have a hard time betting against Michael Hawkins, young or not. Here's the thing. If this guy Arbuckle is really as good as he seems, and everybody thinks that he is, he's going to develop. The floor with Michael Hawkins, I think, is a little higher than it was with John Mateer. Now, John Mateer's, I like him. He's got a lot of swag. He looks like he can ball out. I'm not going to do all that Baker, Kyler, all that, making comparisons to how that was back then. I'm not doing all that. I'm telling you, those guys had to win the damn job, and so should this guy. Let it be a real competition, and we'll all be fine with it. If you don't, we won't. And it won't help you in the SEC either. If Mateer comes in and wins it, great. Fine. But he better have to come in and win it. If you don't make that happen, then you're already starting this thing off on the wrong foot. And I don't think you can afford to do it. You need to have the best guy in for you to win in the most games next year if you're Brent Venables. Make sure that this is a quarterback competition. But hey, you guys let me know what you think in the comments about this coming up. May or may not be Mateer, but I want to know from you what you think. I appreciate everybody coming in, checking it out. Make sure you hit that like button. If you're not already a subscriber, become one. We'll see you on the next one.